Hi, good afternoon. I'm Laura Holme, lecturer at UCA. And today I'm going to talk to you about my most favorite subject, which is pitching. Having worked and still working for advertising agencies, running, organizing, leading pitches, it's kind of in my blood. And the more I occurred to it, more that it occurred to me, not to reserve pitching and the skill of pitching simply for pitch presentations. Yes, of course, that's important. But actually within it, don't forget there's many opportunities when you want to sell yourself and your ideas. So that's why I think life's the pitch. How to sell yourself and your ideas. So what's the meaning of a pitch? Let's go back to the dictionary. Pitch, a speech or act that attempts to persuade someone to buy or do something. And the verb to pitch is to try to persuade someone to buy something, give you something, or to make a business deal with you. Pretty important for what we're all trying to do, launching our careers. And what better time now to get comfortable with pitching? So what is a pitch? Let's look at it really basically. For me, simply, it is a presentation, often visual, with a purpose. So that's the most important thing, is the purpose. It is a presentation with a purpose. So what kind of different formats of pitches are there? You know, what are the different purposes you can have for a pitch? Well, it could be a written presentation. It could be you sending CV in a covering letter. It could be an email message. It could be a tender or pitch or bid document. Or it could be a business proposal. That's a pitch. Often it's thought about that it's oral, and indeed it quite often is, but you can be pitching in a one-to-one meeting. You can be pitching in an interview. You can be pitching when you're delivering a speech. Or it can be both. It could be a group presentation, it could be a lecture, it could be a seminar, it could be a speaking panel, it could be at a conference. So all of those are different formats of pitches. So you can see actually there's many opportunities when pitching is absolutely the right mode to be in. So that's what I say. When should you be in pitch mode? Well, it could be in order to get a job interview. It could be getting the job. It could be gaining followers. It could be selling your idea to your investors. It could be securing a business deal or winning an advertising account. There's lots of times when you should be in pitch mode. So let's look at great pitches. Unfortunately, I don't have the time to share with you some of the really brilliant pitches I was fortunate enough to work on in many years of my advertising career, where they were just a performance beyond nothing. But let's look at other things that could be considered pitches. So think about famous speeches. They were pitches. They had a purpose. They wanted people to join their movement, to follow them on their mission, to explain their vision. So there's Winston Churchill. We shall fight on the beaches, on the landing grounds, in the fields and in the streets. We shall fight in the hills. We shall never surrender. How powerful is that? Nelson Mandela, I've cherished the ideal of a democratic and free society in which all persons live together in harmony and with equal opportunities. It's an ideal I hope to live for and to achieve, but if need be, it's an ideal for which I'm prepared to die. Or Emily Pankhurst, leading the women's suffragette movement. You've left it to women in your land. The men of all civilized countries have left it to women to work out their own salvation. That is the way in which we women of England are doing. Powerful words trying to persuade people to join their cause and to be aware of their purpose. They are presentations, or they are a pitch with purpose. So what makes a great pitch? Let's look at that. Have a clear mission and goal. It seems obvious, but sometimes you're just thinking about the content. And what you need to do, first of all, is really spend time having your clear mission and goal. Only then will you know what content to include and the style of your delivery. So what do you know about your audience? What do you need to know about your audience? What do they need to know about you? You behind any presentation is a big part of it. Look at Winston Churchill, Nelson Mandela, and Emily Pankhurst. They were selling themselves through their purpose. What do you want your audience to do, think, believe, feel as a result of this? You want to give them logic and you want to give them emotion. And what do you want them to do as a result? That's got to be the most important thing. What is it? What is the purpose? What do you want them to do after hearing or reading what you've done? So keeping your main goal in mind will help you to focus your efforts and only include the information that serves that purpose. You've got to be prepared to get rid of the stuff that doesn't serve the purpose, so that you're not getting clouded and overwhelmed with all the other stuff. Because what happens is you want people to join you on your journey. And if you start adding information that isn't serving your goal, they'll get confused. Just focus purely on your purpose. So have a clear mission and goal. Keep it short and succinct. You may have a lot of information to share, but the smartest thing you can do is whittle it down and focus on the most important need to know things. Why is that? One of them is, one study indicates that the average investor only spends 3 minutes and 44 seconds reviewing your pitch deck. And in a verbal presentation, the audience usually makes its mind up in the first 2 to 3 minutes, which is why you want to start with a bang. You only get one chance to make a first impression, and you want it to be a good one. So get to your pitch's core by introducing your company. And I'd suggest starting off with a tagline or a short explanation of the business or brand idea. A good tagline should be 7 words max, and it should hint at your company's vision in a memorable way. You want to get people at the beginning, really feeling something above the functional purpose. You want them to say, yes, that's a rallying cry. That's something I want to hear more about. And really, really engaging them right at the get-go. That's really important. And tell a story. Don't just deliver a report, content, research. Yeah, that's got to be part of it. But tell a story within it. Why? Storytelling is universal. Storytelling allows you to deliver powerful and memorable messages to motivate the listener to take action. It creates meaning and it gives sense to otherwise unconnected events or ideas. It brings it to a new level. People like listening to stories. You want them to be engaged with it. And often people say, was that 30 minutes long? Well, was it 30 minutes long? But you want them to feel like it wasn't 30 minutes long. You want them to really lose themselves in it and not be waiting for the last slide or how much longer is it going to be. You don't want people thinking that. You want them to join you and just enjoy the journey and not want it to end. Stories engage us emotionally. They tell us who someone is and what they care about. And it crosses all kinds of barriers, including cultural ones and language barriers. Storytelling is universal, as I said. And answer the why. So many presentations and businesses fall into the trap of just focusing on the what. Yeah, you do need to talk about the what for sure. But, if you're talking about what your business does without ever touching on the impact of those efforts, it's you delivering a presentation to yourself. Tell me why I should care. So successful pitch decks address the following important factors. Why their brand or business idea matters to the world and to the entrepreneur. Start with the why. And then you can say, what is the story behind the idea and the startup's creation? What the motivation is behind the business and what problem it's trying to solve. But start with the why. So I have a kind of 3-step process that I work on when trying to structure it. And actually give enough airtime and give enough thinking time to each of the 3 stages. You might be tempted just to focus on the prepare, but actually The research is important, so you can prepare. And the rehearsal means that all that preparation work is going to make sure you deliver the best performance. So don't rush them. Research. Well, sometimes people forget about it. You're so focused on delivering your content, but actually the only thing that matters when you're delivering your pitch is your audience. That's all that matters. They're the ones who are going to vote for you. They're the ones who are going to say yes to your proposal. They're the ones you want. So know your audience. Who are they? What do they sell? What's their culture like? Are they a market leader? Are they a challenger? Are they a new entrant? When you know a bit more about them, and you then can try and utilize your content to make them to feel and to do something. But you can only do that if you're talking to them as a real person and knowing a bit more about them. Do your homework. The more you know about them, the more you can tailor your presentation to engage and influence them. Prepare. There's lots of great things I've learned from brilliant pitch presenters, by brilliant strategists, by great training seminars I've been in, that actually there seems to be a lot in the power of three. So it's up to you to decide which construct you want to use, but there is something in three. So the story of your business idea could be told, which is what's the potential, what's the problem, what's the solution. You could tell it as a story, really going back to what a story is. A story's got a character. What's the character? What's the plot? And what's the resolution? Or you could look at great playwrights who write 3-act plays. How do you think they structure the content? They looked at what emotion they wanted to deliver, to emotionally persuade the audience and give them there was a different emotion to each one of the acts. So each act focused on evoking that emotion, and it brings people through the journey of how you want them to feel at the end. The rule of three works on slide formats too. Look at great presentations and you'll see that they quite often deliver 3 pieces of information, 3 graphs, 3 illustrations on each slide. It's because it allows you to impart enough information, but not too much information, to feel like it's an inclusive, if you like, a wholly inclusive bit of information that's imparting. The other thing to think about is the narrative of your pitch. Your slide headers, a great strategy director I worked with, Simon Calvert, talked about it, which is write your slide headers first and then read them across. And when you read them across, that is the story of your pitch. And then the details are the bullet points on each slide, which expands upon it a little bit. And don't try and put all of the information in your bullet points. Otherwise, it's too much for someone to take in. So look at what the key points are in your bullet point and then use your voiceover to create some more information and the emotion. Think about the emotion. It can be delivered through your tone of voice, through the volume that you're speaking at, from the pace and varying it, the expressions you're using, and the body language. All of those are what allows you to present yourself as part of the idea and to tell a really well-told story, so that you're allowing the people in your audience or the reader of your presentation to follow you clearly, and by you giving them enough variety so they can take it in. And rehearse, rehearse, rehearse. I have put it down there 3 times because I think you should rehearse your presentation 3 times. Why would you spend all that time preparing your presentation only to deliver it for the first time in front of your audience? It's crazy, right? The most important bit is the performance. So there's different stages when you become more familiar with your content, which means it will be the best performance if you rehearse 3 times. The first one is what I might call the stumble through. You know, don't worry about it too much. Read it out loud, see what it sounds like. You'll pick up errors or omissions along the way. You'll find, that didn't really work too well. I want to re-express it. So do that for yourself. and guarantee you that you will pick up things you want to change. And then do your rehearsal in front of an audience, whoever you choose to do, member of your family, your friends, colleague. And then you won't be so nervous because you will have delivered in front of someone. So first to yourself, less scary, but you need to do it. To someone else, a little bit more scary, but you've got that one out of the way, and ask for their feedback. You know, they don't have to be an expert, but they're a person, and they can say, you lost me there, I didn't really understand that didn't work so well, there was a bit too much information. So ask for the feedback and then go back and change your pitch presentation again. Now, the third time, I would still do it in front of one, maybe two people. Get yourself used to the idea before you do the real performance. And get them to ask questions at the end of it. So then you'll know what potential questions your audience might have, and then prepare your answers. So use that, but also think, what kind of questions might they have? Because actually, when you're doing your pitch, the rule of thumb tends to be, if they're giving you an hour, I would not deliver content more than 40 minutes long. Leave that final third for the Q&A, because I'm going to get to know you. Then only the questions they have will be answered. Otherwise, if you do your presentation right up to the end, there's unanswered questions and they'll remain unanswered. So get those ones out of the way. And actually, it's a powerful part of them knowing how passionate you are about the idea, how much rigor there is to what you're delivering, because you will have answers behind it. And that could come from some of the content you couldn't put in the presentation, but that you'll have. So that research is always going to be useful. Imagine if someone at the end of it, you give a great performance, a great pitch, and they ask you questions. You don't know the answers to any of them and you stumble. How's that going to end it? That's the final part of your presentation. And it's really not going to be powerful. It could detract from the great presentation you've given. So here are some pitch top tips. Some I've mentioned, some that I thought about to add to it. So think of your pitch as a 3-act play. Use your content to emotionally persuade and make it visual. 80% of people remember what they see compared to 10% of what they hear and 20% of what they read. So although I talked about the slide headers and the bullet points, they're important. But if you can use an image to tell your story and work off that, and you can still use a voiceover, then so much the better. Vary your media. Use some visuals and some words and some quotes to just really make it visually interesting, because that's what they're going to remember at the end of the presentation. Rehearse. I know I'm going on about it, but trust me, you won't know what your pitch sounds like until the words leave your mouth. And finally, focus on the people in the room, and you will. You'll know a lot about them. You'll be comfortable with your content, so you won't just be focusing on what words am I going to say. You're focusing on them. You know your content. You've rehearsed it 3 times. Pause. Survey the audience. Look for someone who's smiling or laughing. Engage with them. Or look for a furrowed brow and stop and be comfortable to say, did you have a question on that? Or did you want me to go through that again? Or do you have a question you want to ask me, or some feedback? Don't be worried about that. And interact with people. And try to interact with every single person in the audience. Clearly not possible if you're delivering something in front of hundreds of people. But in a smaller group of, say, 4 to 6 people, make sure there's something for everyone. Now, you might not be able to personally speak to them, or they might not ask a question, but actually you will know the audience. So when you're putting a particular point out in your presentation, it is answering someone, because you know what their pain points are, what they're like as a person, what they're passionate about, what keeps them awake at night. So make sure there's something for everyone, because the name of the game is making sure everyone who's a stakeholder in that process puts her hand up and votes for you. So thank you very much for a whistle-stop tour between about life's a pitch, how to sell yourself and your ideas. If you've got any other questions about pitching, I'm very happy to talk to you or answer any questions you have via email, because I'm very passionate about it and I think it's a really important life skill. So thanks very much.